Hello and welcome to another maintenance blog from the engine bay. In a previous blog I talked about our battery meltdown disaster in Colombia.
You can smell the batteries have been boiling up. They're really hot and they're kind of swollen in parts. I think our batteries are fried.
So in this blog and the next few blogs I'm going to show how I rebuilt the system in order to upgrade to lithium batteries. The first thing to do was upgrade the Mastervolt Chargemaster to a Victron Multiplus. To be fair to Mastervolt, they did send a replacement to Panama, but it was 110 volt and not the 220 volt that I needed for our boat. But the cost of sending it back was just way too prohibitive. Luckily there was a Victron importer in Panama, so I ordered the Victron Multiplus to replace it. So the Victron Multiplus has turned up. That's the 24 volt, 3000 watt, 70 amp, 230 volt charger inverter, and that's going to replace our Mastervolt Chargemaster. The displays stopped working and we think the regulators stopped working as well. Anyway, we decided to go down the Victron route because we have a lot of other Victron bits and pieces, and we just thought it would be sensible to kind of stay with the Victron architecture so we don't have any compatibility problems. So today I'm going to be installing this little monster. So it's smaller than I kind of visualised, but it's also heavier, and it comes with the backing plate as well. So first of all I've got to measure up for that. Before I measure up and put that on, I've got to take the Mastervolt out. We only need the charger for shore power and generator, and we generally only need that on an evening. So I'm going to try and get it fixed before evening. Until then we've got the solar power to take care of things. So the first thing to do was just a simple matter of switching the batteries off by the battery switch and remove the old charger, or so I thought. The idea being to swap out the old charger for a new one using the same cables. The difference between the two actually is the Multiplus is an inverter as well, but I wasn't going to wire that in just at this moment because I also had another inverter which I needed to take out before I switched them across. So here we have the AC in and the batteries out. So these are what I need to disconnect. That's interesting, there's still a current there. Why is there still a current? So I'm a bit confused. I've closed the battery shut-off switches off and still getting 26.9 volts at the terminals at the charger. So it's still getting a charge from somewhere, and now we're going to figure out where. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect them to see if there's something coming from a capacitor inside the battery charger, or maybe the generator, or maybe these wires somehow bypass the shut-off switch. No charge, so it's definitely coming from the batteries. Yep, definitely coming from there. Right, I'm going to isolate these now so we don't get any nasty sparks. But it turned out the battery shut-off switches are way more complicated than I first thought. So the positive and the negative from both the house batteries and the engine batteries go through a positive and a negative shut-off switch. And both of these switches are divided into 4 sections. The top is 12 volt only and deals with the engine battery. The bottom is 24 volt and deals with the house bank. The right side is the load side and it's connected to the rest of the boat and is affected by the shut-off switch. And the left side is connected to the batteries and is not affected by the shut-off switch, so it's constantly live. And it was to here where the charger was connected up to, which explains why when I shut off the battery switches there was still a live feed to the charger. So then I removed the AC input, which puts the power in from the generator or shore power. And I taped them up just to be safe. Then I had to remove the mounting screws. There's a battery temperature monitor still clipped in there. It's hooked on a bracket at the back, so it just needs unhooking off that and take it out. It was then that I had the second surprise of the day. When I pulled the charger mount forward, there was an older charger connected to the back of the mount.
So we've got a 24 volt 30 amp battery charger.
After tracing the wires, I discovered it was connected to the water maker and also the strange fuse box. So it kind of was sat next to the charger all this time, and to be frank, I was a bit baffled by it. I knew it was connected to the water maker somehow, but I had no idea it was connected to this mysterious charger at the back of the Mastervolt. So why it was connected to the water maker and this charger, I had no idea. So it took me an inordinate amount of time to trace all of the wires and make a diagram, and I can't thank Dean Gillies enough, a fellow AML owner, who helped me trace the wires and work out this mystery. It turns out that this is an automatic unit which switches on the charger when the water maker is being used, and so the batteries get charged, so the water maker doesn't deplete the batteries too much. Now this is a wholly unnecessary complication in my opinion, and needed removing really, but I wasn't going to get sidetracked while I was still on with just swapping out the chargers. So I did what any professional would do. I just kind of put it back out of sight and decided to deal with it another day.
So the Victron is 36.4, which should easily fit there. Turned out the mount was a bit thin, so I've got out a little bit of backing board because the screws are quite deep and I haven't got any shorter ones, and these are perfect for the Victron mount, and so I didn't want them to go through into the other charger on the other side, even though I'll probably be taking that out eventually. But even so, I don't want screws sticking out the back. So this bit of 9mm ply board will be perfect, and then I'll mount everything on there. So now I've got to get the screws way back there in those little holes here, and one back there as well, so that's going to be tricky. I don't think they thought this one through, because this corner one is so hard to get to. You can't even get a long screwdriver in there because of the terminal ends here. So we've got the AC going in here, and then two AC outlets here, which I presume is for the inverter side of things, and then various connectors for the sensors. We've got the RJ45 connectors here, I think that's for the dongles, and then obviously the two battery terminals here, the positive and the negative. So it's pretty self-explanatory really. There is a lot more complex things going on up here, as you can see. But today we're just going to concentrate on putting the AC in and connecting up the battery cables. The cables for the batteries, they're connected to the battery side of the shutoff switch, so they're constantly live, which obviously makes them a bit tricky to work with because you don't want them touching, which is why I put loads of insulating tape around them. So there's two cable terminals for each one. That's why it's always horrible working with live cables. The RJ45 cable goes into this little Ethernet bus here, and then the other end, this goes into the MK3 bus.
The Mark III bus, which you have to buy separately by the way, is the device in which you program the MultiPlus. Why it's not integral to the MultiPlus, I have no idea. And it's not to be confused with the VE Bus Bluetooth smart dongle, also bought separately by the way, which enables you to control the MultiPlus via Bluetooth through the Victron control app, which I'll go into more when the Lithiums get installed. So once you have the Mark III bus, you then need to download the Victron Connect app if you haven't got it already. The Victron Connect app basically connects up all of your Victron devices via Bluetooth, and it was a fairly easy install, and everything is pretty self-explanatory after that.
So I've got the MK3 USB bus, which has got the standard USB connector on it. So because I've got a Mac, I'm going to need an adapter. It would have been handy if they'd supplied this with the USB-C connector for a Mac, but that's just the way it is. So you think it would have the cables with it, but no. We had to go into town and find RJ45 Ethernet cable, which was a bit of a pain, but we found one in the end, and hopefully we can get this thing configured. And there it is. Wow, that was so easy. I just plugged it in and there it is. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go to product info and check the firmware is updated. So I'll just update. Okay, so you get this warning. Actually, what was the firmware update? I'm going to go into the settings. Apparently the password is just ZZZ. And there it is. Wow, that was so easy. Let's just go through and check them. So 50 Hz, 50 amps. Battery monitor, we haven't got a battery monitor on it. Not yet. So I'm just going to leave all these at the default setting until I know better. Just going through just to see what they are. Inverter output voltage 230. We haven't got the inverter actually connected up, so redundant. So the charger, this is what we are after. Charge current 52 amps. Absorption 28. Float. So we haven't got lithium batteries at the moment, so I'm just going to keep that off to the AGM settings. Input control. Okay, so I'm just going to keep them at the default settings for now. The only thing I'm going to change is this fast transfer when the mains generator stops. So I'm going to disable that because we don't really use shore power, we only use the generator. So that's off, and I think all the rest are good to go, I hope. 50 Hertz. Charger we have got going. I think we're good to go. I've left the Ethernet cable on, connected now to the VE Bus smart dongle, which will give us a Bluetooth reading on the smartphone of what's going on with the charger. So all that remains to do now is wait for the lithium, and then obviously I've got to make some more changes, but I've still got to remove the Dolphin around the back there, and control panel here. Done. Everything seems to be okay. Now what we're going to do is wait for the Lithiums, and then we've got to change all that around again. At least we've got that part of the system changed around, so it's only a matter of just kind of swapping out a few things now. After all the work and the expense of buying it and putting it in place, I'm hoping it's a piece of equipment we don't really use that much, because I'm hoping that when we get the lithium in, that the solar panels will keep them charged up enough that we can just live off battery power, rather than having to use the generator and the shore power to keep those batteries topped up. If we manage the situation on the boat okay, and we get our battery management right, we could go several days with no sun. Our battery usage is very minimal. We've learned over the years to keep it as low as possible, and we've learned to manage the situation quite well. We don't have any air conditioning on board. We tend to switch the freezer off on a night. Our whole lifestyle is geared around low energy usage. So I think when we get this lithium, I think it's going to be more than enough to keep us going for a few days, but only time will tell.
So that's it. Thanks for watching, and a big thanks to our patrons as always for keeping us going. You know what you do for us, and we greatly appreciate it. If you want to become a patron or you want to contribute to all these blogs, then just follow the links in the description below. Now you can also buy one of our crew shirts by following the links to our merch store.